Welcome. This is Joe Mazik from Finit, and today our webinar is going to be on driver-based forecasting with one of our consultants. So a little bit about us before we get rolling. So, real quick, kind of the what. What does Finit do? We do full cycle implementations and all the different Hyperion products. I mean, that's why we're all here. You all know who we are and what we do. The whole Hyperion suite. So HFM planning, SBase, DRM, and all the other ancillary tools that go along with that. Upgrades and redesigns are also something that we do, and we're seeing a very big interest in that right now. A lot of clients who are kind of more mature in how they use the products have maybe new business requirements or business changes, and also, as we know, Oracle's always coming out with new versions, so there's been a lot of upgrades that have been going on. As well, we have a dedicated support group and a fully staffed support group that handles ongoing support for clients on the application side and technical side. It's a nice little unique model that we have that's a little different than some of the other competitors in the space, in that there is no upfront cost. It's basically a pay-as-you-go model, and we've had a lot of clients who really love that Finit Answers support model that we have in place. So the why is Finit here? Honestly, it's one of those things where we get a lot of some geeky people together, and this is a company full of people who are into accounting and into these tools, and it's just that we love this space. We love digging into the issues and problems that our clients have, coming up with what the requirements are, what the best solutions are, and delivering those solutions at the best value that we can possibly deliver. That's really the reason that we're here. And then a little bit about who we are. We're a small company with a small ownership group, but our ownership group is very involved in the day-to-day business of the company. There is no outside influence. Everybody's got skin in the game, and that's really something that's important to us. We're a company that manages the company the way we think a lot of our clients would like to manage their company. We're conservative. We're debt-free. That's important to us. Everyone who works here is an employee. We don't subcontract out work. Again, it's a way that we have skin in the game, making sure the people that are here are going to be here tomorrow and ongoing. And then probably the biggest factor in who we are is how we deliver client satisfaction. So what we've done in how we operate, the model that we operate the company in, is that we have a model in which compensation or incentives for our consultants are not based on what they'll call utilization or billable hours. It's based on client satisfaction. We've taken out that kind of inherent conflict of interest about billing more to make more and made it more about fully supporting the client. And when we're talking about client satisfaction, it's a question of how do we measure that? So how we measure it is through surveys, and we actually go right out to our clients and ask them about how they feel about three main value areas in which we deliver our services. So is the service appropriate? Are we doing things that are appropriate for how a consultant is on the job? Are the solutions that we deliver impactful? Are they delivering value? Are they being done efficiently? And then even internally, are we looking at how we better ourselves, how we better our clients, how we better our own company? Those are all very key in how we deliver the solutions to our clients. Now, all of that brings us to what we're very proud of, and that is we just recently crossed over the 250 client threshold. We're very proud of that. And what's nice about that is a lot of our clients are referral clients, meaning clients we've done in the past, maybe managers, controllers, CIOs, go to other companies, they end up bringing us in because they know the type of work that we deliver. What also happens is that, obviously, with over 500 projects, it's well over 500 projects, a lot of our clients come back to us over and over again for more and more projects as we move forward. Then there's some customers here that we've delivered solutions for. Some of these, many of these are long-term clients. You may recognize some of these clients. So with that, I'm going to introduce Carla. And for a minute, I just kind of want to look at the picture she has there because it's obviously of Hawaii, and it looks gorgeous, and it's way nicer than the 22-degree weather that I'm sitting in right now. So Carla, I'll go ahead and let you take it from here.
All right. Thank you for that introduction, Joe. So a little bit, I appreciate everyone joining today's webinar on driver-based forecasting. So I'm your presenter today. My name is Carla Cwiertnia. My email address is right there, so feel free to reach out to me with any questions after we're done here. So a little bit about myself. I have over 15 years experience with Hyperion planning and S-Space. With Finit, I'm a member of the planning and S-Space practice team, as well as a member of the Finit Answers team. I'm also an Oracle Hyperion Planning and S-Space certified consultant. And as Joe has already pointed out, I love Hawaii. So this picture here is one my husband actually took in Maui a couple of years ago. So let's get started. So the agenda for today, we're going to start out looking at driver-based forecasting. Then we're going to move into the challenges and types of drivers. Then we're actually going to step through and look at creating a driver-based forecast. Then I'm going to walk you through a few examples of driver-based forecasting. And at the end, we're going to give you all of our contact information. And again, we're going to remind you of our future webinars. So driver-based forecasting. The first thing you have to note about driver-based forecasting is obviously what is a driver. I like to think of drivers as the cause and effect. It's going to be something that has an impact. And changing drivers give different results. So you have to know what drives an organization, what business processes. That's where your drivers are going to come from. If you're not able to understand those two things and come up with the appropriate drivers, then you're not really going to have a lot of success with driver-based forecasting. Drivers are inputs, they're not outputs. So what that means is it's not a calculated result, it's not an end, it's where you start. It's the things you come up with. Again, it's what drives your business. It's going to be global drivers. You're going to have different ways of determining what your output's going to be by inputting with drivers. And drivers are not always going to be controllable. We have things like seasonality and market changes and supply and demand. So even though they're not controllable, they can still be a driver because maybe you can look at your historical trends and that will give you the ability to analyze. You can see what's happened in the past and use that to apply to your forecast, even though it may not be completely accurate and you're guessing, but at least you might still have an educated guess. So how do we use drivers? Today we're really going to focus more on using drivers in a forecast scenario. You can also use it for budget and plan, but those scenarios are typically a little bit more static, and a lot of times I think we all know that those become obsolete by the time they're finalized. So a forecast is more of a living, breathing, day-to-day operations, a way of looking at things, and that's why we're going to focus on that today. And some of the components we're going to look at are revenue analysis, and an example of using drivers there is sales equals price times units, probably one of the most basic types of drivers to look at. And cost analysis. I'm sure all those accountants and finance people out there are familiar with activity-based costing, and that's where you're going to look at some of your fixed and variable costs using drivers. And then profitability and pricing. It's always good to know your break-even point. And I think we all know that companies don't go into business to break even. We obviously want to make a profit. So again, this is where drivers can really be utilized to have a look at price increases and decreases and get a better idea how to manage the pricing and determine profitability. And risk analysis. I like to call this one the what happens if scenario. You want to know if you have a probability of something happening or a possibility of something happening, what are your financial results going to be? Nobody wants to be surprised. So even though you can't predict the future, you can run these risk analysis scenarios to just have an idea of what would happen if those things do occur. And strategic decisions, knowing what drives the business. That's really critical aspect of using drivers. And that goes hand in hand with process improvement. As you analyze the results of changing drivers, you're going to be able to better improve your processes. And the more you improve your processes, the more you're going to be able to make better strategic decisions. What is driver-based forecasting? The first thing you have to do is identify key metrics. And to do that, you have to ask yourself some questions. What drives sales? What drives cost? What drives overhead? If you're not able to answer these basic questions, then again, you're really going to struggle with implementing driver-based forecasting. And in driver-based forecasting, we typically use two primary types of drivers, global drivers and local drivers. Global drivers are the drivers that are usually input at a total company level, and these usually impact everything all the way from top down. So as you change these global drivers, it could potentially update the end results at the basic, bottom planning unit level. Local drivers are just the opposite. They're actually input by your planning unit manager. So these are things like headcount, where they would actually manage their existing employees and their new hires to come up with their total headcount. And I kind of like to think of using drivers as well as an A times B equals C. A lot of times you're going to have a global driver times a local driver, and that equals your result. A lot of times it's going to be your expense, and then we'll go over some examples of that later. We also like to model the impact of variables. Again, increase, decrease, modify drivers. You have to make all of these changes to determine the financial impact. If you don't model the variables and make changes, again, you're really not getting the best use out of driver-based forecasting. It's there to show you what would happen if you make changes. And as you're doing this, focus on areas that drive success. Ask yourself, what has a material impact? Do I want to focus on processes that are routine day-to-day that have no impact on my sales or my cost of sales or overhead? Make sure you focus on those areas, and again, that's going to help you get better and better and become more strategic. What are the benefits of driver-based forecasting? We already talked about what-if scenarios using changing drivers. And again, this is going to enable you to see the impact that changing drivers can have on the financials. And really can't stress that one enough. This is a, again, living, breathing thing. You want to keep it changing, keep looking at it, and just try to look at everything that's going to impact your organization. And again, you have to focus on what drives the organization. By using drivers, it allows you to hone in on the business processes and the key metrics that really drive the organization. We're also going to standardize the forecast. And this doesn't mean update it once and forget about it. Again, it's an iterative process. It's going to change along with your business. If your business changes, then your forecast should change right along with it if the two processes are aligned. And predicting labor expenses more accurately. This is a really good one for using drivers to predict labor expenses. Gets you the ability to apply rates and caps, which most are supplied by the U.S. government at least. So you can really, at an individual person level, you can get really accurate calculations for headcount. And create forecasts more easily. Again, I think as we go over examples, you'll really see how using drivers can have you going from manual input where every planning unit manager has to go in and make changes to maybe just updating a few drivers and having 80% of your budget already redone for you. So when upper management says they need a new forecast right away, again, you can make some changes to global drivers and maybe have 80% done, and then just have your planning unit managers do the rest and finish it off and do it much quicker. So how will drivers improve forecast accuracy? You're going to be able to manage changes efficiently. So again, by using drivers, you could potentially shorten your forecast process from weeks to days. Maybe you go from days to hours. It's really significant to be able to change things at an upper level and have them flow all the way down rather than relying on your individual planning unit managers to go in and make changes. If you have 100 people that are inputting a forecast and each one of them has to make updates, it's going to take a lot longer than if you're able to push some changes down globally. Another thing I like is that it provides consistency. You know everybody's using the same rate. So if you take, for example, if you have an average cost per flight, you don't have to worry about one planning unit manager using one rate and another using a drastically different rate. So as you start analyzing those results as it rolls up your P&L, you're able to better understand what's driving that because you know what rate was used and you know that everybody used it. You're going to be able to update forecasts quickly and more often. Again, utilizing drivers allows you to update those forecasts and see those different outcomes so quickly. And again, if you're doing the what-if scenarios, it'll allow you to see the before and after, best case, worst case. Strategic advantage. So knowing what drives the business and analyzing those changes is going to allow the organization to be proactive instead of reactive. So again, if you've looked at maybe there's a possibility or probability of something happening, and you've used the driver-based forecasting to see what those results would be if that did happen, then guess what? When it actually does happen, you're going to have a strategic advantage over your competitors because you're not going to be reacting and chaos trying to get a new forecast done. You already have a really good idea of what financial impact that's going to have on your company.